Let's talk about rhythm guitars. Riffical Records presents The Making of Projekt Gemineye 4, From Creation to Completion, with Mark Anthony Kay. Greetings, friends, and welcome to episode 6 of PG4, The Making of an Album. So this episode, we're going to be taking a look at rhythm guitars. One of the more essential parts of any good album. And what do you need for good rhythm guitar tracks? Well, you need a good guitar, and you need a good amp sound. So me, I've always been a pretty devoted user of Fender Strats for a long time, and Jackson guitars I was really into, but for the last couple of albums I've switched gears and I became a Gibson person, as you can see here. Well, if I can get it in focus here, come on. There we go. This is a Gibson 2014. That's the 120th anniversary model SGJ. This is a 3-piece mahogany body, maple neck, rosewood fretboard, and the most important thing are the pickups. These are 1961 modeled Zebra Alnico 5 magnet pickups, Gibson model. And they sound fantastic. You heard from my segment that I did at the beginning of this video. They have quite a great range of sound. When you turn them up full, sounds like that. But great thing about these guitars, which weren't always the case for Gibsons, and this is one of the things that oh, hi Jack, I see you're in the window back there. One of the things that we used to have issues with Gibson guitars is that you would roll the volume down and it would be like nothing was happening. It was like as it stayed at 10 until they got right near the bottom of the volume pod and they were just cut off. Now they've put back the old kind of symmetry into it, and now when you reduce the volume you can find different levels of gain within the distortion because you can change the amount of volume now. So if I have about 10 here, Now if I roll it back a bit, you watch as I roll it down, you'll hear the tone change, the amount of distortion change as well. So here's 10. So I leave it like sort of halfway, you can get kind of like that AC/DC kind of thing. Whereas if you turn up full blast, you get more heavier tempos. More like a sort of Judas Priest kind of sound. So this guitar was used pretty extensively on this new album. I really enjoyed the sound that I got from this guitar. And in conjunction with the sounds that I got, for example, this sound that I'm using now is sort of a Marshall JCM 800 type tone, a little bit more overdriven, right? But you can do all kinds of different things with this. I did use my using Kettner amp head and the Marshall cab. The problem with videotaping that is that I have the cabs and stuff in other rooms. And it's just me, and I'm using the camera off of my computer, so it's kind of hard for me to film that. But though that tone is on the record as well. But this, people have made comments about pods for a long time, but I'm a devoted user of a pod. And for me, one of the things that I found that really helped shape the sound of the pod is running it through something that has a tube. My little mixing board here that I have on the side here, has tubes in it, like 12 AX7 tubes, and I run that in there, and you can implement the tube into the channel, and so that really helps in warming up the sound and giving it more of a authentic amp sound, right? But I've always loved the pods. I don't care what people say. Some people hate them. I love them, and I've used them on every record that I've done, so I'm going to stick with them. But just to show you, you have this kind of sound here, which is like basically the steroided sort of Marshall JCM 800. Now if you go back here, this is more like an earlier kind of plexi head, not as heavy, more subtle, right? More of that kind of, not as in your face kind of tone. But you can do all kinds of things with this too. Like you can add in like a delay flanger. That kind of thing, right? But yeah, so the JCM 800 tone is really what I used for this record. I really wanted something that was more, not as aggressive. I mean, I'll show you some of the sounds that I used on prior records, which are considerably heavier, I think. When you go back here, I believe this was one of the old ones that I had before. That one and this one here, I believe. And those are more like a Mesa Boogie kind of sound. They're a little bit more modernistic sounding, whereas the one that I wanted to use on this record is much more not as abrasive, let's just put it that way. So So that's the amp setup with this guitar, and now I'll cut and show you the other guitar that I use exclusively, because what I did mainly is I tracked the songs with this guitar first. That'll get panned into the left channel, and then I track with the other guitar and I pan into the right channel, giving me that stereo sound. So let me cut and get to the other guitar for So, those of you who have watched my clean guitar video will recognize this guitar. This is my 2014 Gibson Les Paul Studio. I was never really much of a Les Paul player when I was younger. I used to always kind of envision them as guitars that were tied back to a period of like the 70s and the early 80s. And for some reason, when I was in my bands earlier, I always thought that, you know, since we were considered at that point like the next wave of guitar players and the next wave of musicians, I always tried to go for more newer guitars, Jacksons, Charvels, and stuff like that. So I kind of always steered away from these guitars. But now, you know, as I've gotten older and now that I'm more a matured player and stuff like that, not to say that Les Pauls are for only mature players. I mean, everybody plays Les Pauls now. They've become reinvigorated over the last 20 years, I think, because of people like Slash, and especially for me, it was John Sykes of Blue Murder and Whitesnake who got me back into the whole Les Paul thing. And Alex Lifeson, especially, of Rush, when he started playing back again around the you know, I think it was during Counterparts and Test for Echo and stuff like that. And later, like, I believe that when he did Clockwork Angels, it was just pretty much exclusively Les Pauls at that point. So that was a pretty important time for me. And of course, Kiss. You know, they're all about the Les Pauls. So right away you could tell that this has a much different sound. It's a bit beefier. The guitar is also a bit beefier and heavier. The SG is a bit thinner, a bit more fast and flashier. This is more heavier, robust, sort of bigger tone kind of sound, excuse me. And again, I love the combination of the SG with this together. When you record these two tones and put them into a stereo spectrum, I think it's magic, in my opinion. And I really enjoy using this guitar in conjunction with the SG. What else can I say? As far as what else can affect the sound, let's talk a little bit about my mixing board, because when you listen to this guitar now, just playing as it, what can the mixing board do? Well, it can do a hell of a lot, actually, to change this tone. So right now everything's pretty much sort of flat, with just a touch more of top end added to it. But if you watch what I do, if I add more top end, it can radically change the sound. Like, watch. Now it's way brighter, probably too bright for some stuff. Now you can roll all that off too and get a much, much darker sound. That almost sounds like a bit of like a like Jugulator style Judas Priest or something. Now you put it back to center. Now if you do the same with the mid, this is where you kind of get that early Metallica kind of sound. Mid, but you add in a lot of top into it, right? So you get that sort of scooped sound that they were always pretty popular for. Now, if you roll into the bass into that, be careful with your speakers now. If I roll in the low end into this, you can really get some heft into it. Watch. It sounds cool on its own. I know a lot of guitar players when they start, they're really into that sound, that whole VEQ shape, and it sounds incredible. But a lot of guitar players, when they start realizing when they start playing with bands that they start finding themselves disappearing. When the bass guitar comes in and drums come in, their sound just disappears. They're like, where the hell am I? I can't even hear myself, because a lot of the sound that cuts from a guitar is in the mid. This frequency right here. Now I know that sounds disgusting on its own, but people like Randy Rhoads was all about that sound. That's why when you listen to his guitar sound when he's by himself, when he starts a song, sometimes you're kind of like, ugh. But his guitar sound mixed in with the rest of the band is incredible. Like if you just pop in a bit of more on mid, and then you play like a riff. You see what I mean? Like the mid is all about that. Now if you were to kind of clean that up a bit more, like add a bit more mid and maybe put a bit of top into it. So there you go. That's sort of the idea. I mean, Randy Rhoads used 83 or no, mid 70s Les Pauls, I think he used mainly. I'm not 100% certain, but he was a big Les Paul player, as well as the Jackson V's, which he started using pretty early when they first started making them. So those are essentially the sounds that I use for this record. So the Les Paul, the SG, the Pod, the Hughes and Kettner amp that I have over here. I'll put a picture up of it on the screen here. And the Marshall 412, which is essential. But I like using this Pod in conjunction with it. It gives me a bit more of a direct sound, whereas the Cab gives me a bit more of a rounder room sound. And I can't stress enough how much this board that I have here, and I'll put a picture of it up here as well for you guys to see how much this board helps in shaping the sound, not just the guitars, but the clean guitar sounds and the bass guitar, which is we're going to take a look at next. The bass is next for the next episode. So thank you very much for watching this. I hope you guys enjoy it. Any questions, leave it in the comments section, and I'll be sure to get back to you about it. So thanks for watching, and have a great day. Oh, by the way, the record is pretty much almost finished. I'm on guitar solos now. So I've finished drums, bass, clean guitars, rhythm guitars, and keyboards were just done a few days ago. So we're on to guitar solos. So I'm very excited. So it should be done pretty soon. Okay, take care guys, and thanks for watching.